to week 6 of our course. Hopefully everything has found you well and you've had a great break and a time to kind of refresh yourself and step away from some of the curriculum aspects of this course and others that you're in. Again, we hope that all is doing well with you and that you were able to access all the content that was available to you. If you were looking at getting ahead, maybe you did a little work on week 6 already. I'm going to go through and kind of share some things that might be supportive of the week and hopefully kind of get you on task and ready to move forward with your content and kind of lay out some challenges for you within this piece. So as we talk about this week, there's something we're going to look at is making sure that you have access to all the required materials and the ability to use those materials for your own success. So I'm going to start sharing my desktop with you now and really go back into our week. Looking at week 6, well, pretty much like we said this week is that we're looking at 21st century learning and getting into our content of technology included in the design of curriculum. And really, when we look at that piece of designing curriculum for the 21st century, there's some different things and different tasks that you might want to make sure you're including. And so I'm going to go a little bit off the page looking at some content this week. But as being one of your first couple classes in this course line, it's some good stuff to have access to and knowledge of as you begin to move forward and trying to thinking and wrap your mind around the design of curriculum and support for teachers and for yourself as you move forward utilizing technology in your own classrooms. And so we're going to look at some of the pieces of curriculum design. You have some readings this week kind of looking at enriching your minds for the 21st century and what that really means in education and the way that it's developed. And kind of move, when you look at this course and look at other courses as you move forward in this content realm, we will give you some text and some videos and some things like that. And note that the most relatable information is probably found out there in the web. Most technologists, educational technologists, will post some type of site or have information available online for you to look at or understand, or have a report or some white pages about the successes and things that they've done and they've had with certain types of technologies and contents. So there's not one way of doing something correct in this area. It's really finding the way that's supportive of student learning is the best way to look at it. And so when we're looking at online classes, we're always looking to how we can utilize technology into our classrooms, really support students in their learning by bringing technology included into the tools. And since we wrote a little bit on the Common Core last time, we can kind of see that the Common Core asks for technology to be included into classes so that students get an understanding of not just how it works, but how to augment what they're currently doing and then transform that learning beyond a typical learning environment that we'd see with direct instruction. So let me talk a little bit about some of those pieces. And so one of the first things that I'm going to highlight here is the SAMAR model. And you may or may not heard of the SAMAR model. And really that model kind of talks about, and you can kind of see it when we talk about the inclusion of technology into a classroom and really looking at how that impacts our instruction. And so one of the first things we look at the very top of this list, you see substitution. And really within here is that we're looking at this technology is taking place of something that we would have used maybe a pencil and paper for, or we're using an overhead projector instead of a right-on overhead projector, so you're using a digital instead of the analog projectors. Those are substituting pieces. So there's not really a change in the use of technology. Students aren't getting an initial benefit from that change. It's just that you substituted technology for something that you normally do. And in most people's thinking, that is an appropriate use of educational technology and learning. And just to know that that is a way to use it, but you're not getting the benefit of what technology can bring into your classroom and the support of student learning. Augmentation of your curriculum, technologies that are some tools that go a little bit beyond the substitution, where you're just kind of augmenting those things that you used to be able to do. PowerPoint is one of those things. So instead of having clear slides that you post up or showing a video, you've done a PowerPoint, and you're having that be your mode of presentation to your students. at some point or time within your course. And just know that that is beyond just substituting, but now you're augmenting that piece a little bit. And so you're giving kids a little bit more interactions or pieces with technology. Kind of looking below that, when we look at the transformational piece, how we actually use technology to transform our instruction and transform what is key is learning for our students. And so looking at modification, technology kind of lets us redefine and modify what would normally happen in a classroom. And so instead of you creating a PowerPoint, you go beyond that and look at some other technology pieces that might be able to communicate the same thing, but in a way that you never could before. And so a lot of times when we do this static video, I'm using Google Plus Hangouts to record our sessions each week. There's ways to actually go beyond that as far as a presentational tool. Some of the presentations that I do at e-conferences and things like that is I'll use some other tools and actually interact back and forth with the technology as if I'm speaking to it. And it takes some time, it takes some practice, and takes some other tool pieces out there. But the skill sets are things that you already know and can use that were related back to you as far as in the POW, things that you've done. So that's a modification that's really kind of redefining the task. And then a true redefinition is kind of looking at, I can do something now that I couldn't even have conceived of before. And really, when you're at this point of the inclusion of technology into your classroom, is that where you're using the technology to do something you weren't able to do. And so I wanted to kind of give you a modification tool as maybe something you look at this week when we look at this week's assignment. So this week's assignment is really looking at some staff development for the 21st century. And that staff development piece is doing a staff development that's going to focus on educational technology in your classroom and what that looks like. And so what we're asking you to do is using data and research from the things that are posted and from this presentation and some video clips that are posted also, kind of create an agenda for a staff development. And so an agenda for a staff development is typically about 50 minutes long. Something that you can use to develop and get more information on an agenda is just some quick highlighted points. And what's good about having an agenda before you start the planning piece is that in this assignment, you're going to do a corresponding multimedia presentation. And this multimedia presentation means that you have a path in which to follow, which is your agenda for the content and the way that you want to present it. The primary characteristics for any type of multimedia means multiple uses of technologies incorporated into one piece for your audience. And so looking at that modification piece that we talked about just briefly a second ago, kind of looking at tasks allows us to have significant redesigning of a task. I'm going to challenge some of you to look at Powtoons. Maybe you have used them in the past or you have heard about them. Some other people have done it. They use it a lot for professional development, but it creates an interactive, almost video presentation piece. And you can sign up for free. And so I'm not sending you someplace where you have to pay. There's a pay service piece that gives you some more features involved in it, but you can do a presentation that's pretty well with your staff development. One thing with looking at staff development that's kind of neat and new is that if you were giving a staff development and some people were absent that day, how would they go back and be able to access similar content and knowledge that they weren't able to get by the time that they've missed? And that Powtoons piece would be a way that you could do that. You can actually include voice, or you can just make it straight like a PowerPoint, creating slides. The slides actually move and have more interactivity. A lot of things you might be able to do in PowerPoint, but it'd take you a long time to get it done. And so this is a quick way to kind of look at modifying and moving beyond PowerPoint and moving beyond Prezi as far as a presentational tool that you can use. Okay, and think if they use it in business models. What I use a lot with this is with our kids, and our kids will create essentially their presentations and understandings of content using this or using a film media to kind of say, here's what I understand. So it really gives a depth of understanding. So it really changes the way that they would typically look at it, sort of modifying a typical portion of presentation. And looking at some redefining tools, not something you use maybe for this week. Newton is a company that really are programmers that look at algorithms that can help students support their learning, teachers to create courses in ways. Really right now it's an augmentative, maybe tutorial piece for students who maybe didn't get a section or content. And really what you're looking at it within this is you can create a class. Within that class, you get detailed information from how the students are achieving at that point. I just created this class tonight just to kind of say, here's December 1st. It creates the class through the end of my time. And this is a math course for remediation for students. And it shows me how many active students there are, how many struggling students on track and complete. Now, isn't that a great tool to quickly get students to end a content, allow them to access the content? They take us, quizzes and do problems and work, and then you as a teacher get the feedback quickly back to see which students are doing well, which students aren't doing well. And you can really get an interactive piece and see what that's like. And so these are the contents that you might see within these pieces. Right now I have percentages and proportions, and I put them in square roots and things like that they might want to be able to use. And you see that it scaffolds and stacks upon itself, and it gives a timing base for how long it should take the student to actually get through that. And so this tool is really a redefinition of a normal instructional piece, and it augments a typical classroom, allows students to go through and take content that they may not be able to currently do within your classroom. So there's some things that you can do in here when you go through, and you can ask, you say, I want to create an assignment, ask you what subjects. And unfortunately, it's not a depth of information. Their primary focus was programming for third-party companies. Like I said, the algorithm engine that will allow students to be more adaptive in their learning style, which adaptive learning is one of those terms that you're going to hear a lot when you look at technology pieces. And adaptive learning means that the system itself will adapt based on the answers the student has given and what they do and don't understand about that. And so a student could go in, and it's like you said, this class, if I understood everything in this class when I walked in the door, I took a test and I'd be done. So it does that kind of piece. So as we presented topics like normally in class, and you don't understand that topic, it gives more opportunities to learn that topic through an adaptive module. And so a path from A to Z is never the same for each student. It's based on their individual strengths and personalization of their learning needs. And so that's why we look at it as being one of those, a redefinition. So the only way that you could really do this as a teacher would be to sit down with each individual student, evaluate their individual questions and work that they've done, and then prescribe new content for them based on where their weaknesses are. Great philosophy and great plan to do. Near impossible in our classroom sizes with 35 to 40 kids. When I look at time that we are allowed to spend with our students in a high school environment with our teachers, you get about 45 minutes of individual time per student per year. And so there's not a whole lot of time that you can sit down and actually work with one kid and support their learning for what they needed to get through. So like I said, I'm challenging people to kind of use and look at some of these tools we presented as looking at a way of moving beyond substitution or augmenting just our normal understandings, but looking to modification and redefinition of our content. And so when we're looking at that multimedia presentation, kind of look at the implementation tools and what goals do you want to be a part of your staff development. Be sure to include the implications for your curriculum, assessment, teaching, and student learning in your agenda and in the presentation. And really, when you do that, and if you're doing it in a Powtoons or anything like that, you can screen capture, record, and send if you like. If you don't like that piece, you can actually just send the link and make me a member of that thing, and I can actually access it through the link shared. So that's another way. And that would be due on Sunday at 11 o'clock at night. Again, just to support all of you, if you are in need of some questions, then what you really want to do is you want to email me and or text me. Text response are usually the quickest thing. I want to say one thing, congratulations on your group assignments. They were very, very well done. Very pleased with the content and the way that they were presented. And so most of you did very, very well. And I appreciate it. Makes you feel good is that you're getting into the learning and be able to access that at that depth of level, which is very nice. Well, hopefully you all have a great week and that everything goes well for you this week. And like I said, I'm challenging you as we finish out week 6, 7, and 8 to look at the technologies you're planning on incorporating into your presentations beyond just a static paper, and that you kind of look at how we can redefine or modify what we typically might do. All righty. Have a good week. Thank you.